Doctors could be on the brink of a breakthrough.
Migraines.
How to control them. Tame a migraine.
A severe migraine.
Throbbing, recurring headaches.
Given all the noise, navigating the migraine experience can be confusing and scary, but you do not have to do it alone. Welcome to the Migraine Guy Podcast, the official podcast of themigraineguy.com and theheadachereview.com. Now, here's your host.
All right, everyone. It is Kevin here, the Migraine Guy, bringing you another episode of The Pod. I apologize for not coming out as soon this week as I had anticipated. My migraines have become a little more frequent, even with the tizanidine, and it kind of caught me off guard. I was a little bummed about it last week when the migraines kind of came 2 days in a row, fairly intense migraines. And I haven't really had that kind of sequential experience with them in quite a while, at least since I've started taking the muscle relaxer, the tizanidine. And so I started, hitting up the support group and asking, basically anyone who has been on tizanidine, did they notice that after a certain amount of time it stopped working, and what were their doctor's recommendations? And every single person who replied, and there were quite a few that did, all said basically the exact same thing, that after a certain amount of time its effectiveness went down, and so the doctors recommended either that they up their milligram doses per day or stay off of it for a couple weeks, let my body filter it out, whatever had built up, or whatever cellular stuff had become accustomed to the muscle relaxer, and then reintroduce it after a couple weeks. So I definitely didn't want to upgrade my dosage, go from 2 milligrams to 4 milligrams, because I am a little sleepy throughout the day when I take it, and that's only going to get amplified if I increase dosage. So this is the first full week of my not being on tizanidine, and then I'll stay off of it next week, and then the following week I will start taking it again, hopefully seeing the beneficial migraine pain reduction that I had been seeing for the last 3 or 4 weeks, however long it's been now, maybe a little bit longer actually, but that's okay. Just part of the journey, part of figuring out how the medications that I'm on that do work, how to make them work even better, and kind of know what to expect and whatnot. So that's where I'm at with my migraines. But I also last weekend got to go to Chicago. I live in Nebraska, got to go to Chicago for the Miles for Migraine event. Now, the actual event itself was kind of hampered by the weather. It wasn't just cold and windy, it was rainy and snowy. And there were some people who were, they're diehard runners, and they got out there and they canceled the 10K portion of the event because they didn't want anybody being out there running that long. They were worried about hypothermia and stuff like that. But they did continue with the 5K portion of the run, or you could walk the course if you wanted to. And there were some diehard runners out there, man, people who were running the 5K in like 19, 20 minutes and just wearing, a pair of running shorts and what seemed like a fairly thin top, and they were just out there getting it. Meanwhile, I was standing at the No Time for Migraines booth in, jeans, long pants anyway, and 2 shirts and a jacket, and I was just frigid. So kudos to anyone who can run in that weather and run well in that weather. So the event itself was pretty fun. Got to hear some stories from some patient advocates who have been recently hired at different, not companies, let's see, one I think was with the American Headache Society, and the other one was with another migraine advocacy group, and they shared their stories and why they're passionate about not only migraine research funding and raising funds for migraine research, but also their personal experience. And there's very, very depressing stories and very uplifting stories. And so it was a good event. Got to meet some people, though most people weren't really interacting with one another because it was just so cold. It was kind of difficult to talk to each other. But it was a fun event, and hopefully the first of many that I will be able to attend in the Midwest when it comes to migraine fundraisers, migraine awareness, and migraine outreach. So big thanks to No Time for Migraines for bringing me out there into their booth, and a big shout out to Miles for Migraines, which hosts dozens of walks and races around the United States currently. Is their only country of operation, I believe, but they host dozens a year to help raise funds for migraine research and migraine awareness. And what they do really is invaluable. And if the kind of passion that I saw in the cold and rain and sleet was any indication, I assume when the weather is nice that the crowds come aplenty. So look forward to being part of one when the weather is a little more accommodating. So that being said, nothing too much much going on other than the Tizanidine update. School is almost out for me. Just another week of being in classes, and then I have finals to grade the following week, and then I am done, and I can finally de-stress a little bit, get a little time to recoup after this semester. Every week just feels like I'm getting punched in the face lately, just stressed out. Now the migraines are back. So just, kind of a survival mode on my end, which is why I haven't been able to get this podcast recorded. I had to delay a bunch of stuff last week because of the migraines coming back, and then I had to catch up on all that stuff over last weekend after I got back from Chicago, and then that, of course, bled into this week's productivity. So getting the podcast out a little later than I wanted, but we are still in April, so I guess I'm doing better than last month. If this is your first time listening to the pod, I really hope you'll hit the subscribe button on whatever platform you listen on. If you're on iTunes, a 5-star review and comments about the show, or review about the show, helps it rank higher in search results for Migraine Podcast. There are lots of good migraine podcasts out there, but, they can all come in second place to me if you want. So, you can go ahead and leave a 5-star review and leave some comments on iTunes if that's what you're doing. What we do in the pod is it's in 4 sections. This is section 1, where I just kind of give a little spiel about my personal history, and we are going to get to some migraine news next, then a migraine tip of the week, followed by some closing thoughts by yours truly. So with that being said, let's get to some migraine news. This week's bit of migraine news is not going to be related to medication breakthroughs or potentially interesting studies that have been published, but there is an advocacy awareness campaign that you may have heard of last year that is happening again this year, and the campaign is named Shades for Migraine. You can search that hashtag on Facebook or Twitter, and you can find all of the posts associated with the Shades for Migraine campaign. What Shades for Migraine does is they pick a day during the year, and this year it is June 21st, where migraine sufferers worldwide, as well as those who want to help raise advocacy, raise awareness for migraine-related issues, can wear their sunglasses all day and take some pictures of themselves wearing their glasses at various places and locales, and upload it to social media with the hashtag Shades for Migraine. And the purpose of this is to do something that will help raise awareness in a fairly simple way. If you're a migraine sufferer, photophobia is almost certainly something you battle occasionally, if not very frequently, when your migraines attack. Light sensitivity when your migraines attack is extremely common, and there are a variety of different migraine related products you can get in terms of eyewear. Something with an FL41 lens is very well regarded in the research, but a normal pair of migraines is a very common tool in a migrainer's arsenal. Sometimes polarized lenses are more effective for some people, sometimes normal sunglasses seem to get the job done, but the idea of reducing the amount of light that gets to your visual field is very often a technique that migraine sufferers incorporate in order to help reduce not only their migraine pain when they have a migraine, but also their migraine frequency if light tends to be a trigger for you. And so that is the idea behind Shades for Migraine. They have a Twitter account, they have a Facebook page, and I believe they have an Instagram account as well. So you can go follow them there for all of the information that they provide about migraines and about the upcoming June 21st event. If you go to their website, which is simply shadesformigraine.org, you can see not only social media posts over the years that they've generated with their hashtag, but you can also see the amount of organizations that work in conjunction with them to help bring about awareness. And I'm talking about the big guys, the Alliance for Headache Disorders, American Migraine Foundation, Association of Migraine Disorders, as well as the larger websites out there like Migraine Again and Migraine Pal and the Daily Migraine. So they're not just a one-off organization. They have lots of support, and they are doing a very simple activity on a particular day of the year that can spark the kind of social awareness that wouldn't otherwise happen. I know putting on your glasses and wearing them all day might seem like a very small thing that isn't going to do much, but as we all know, people who wear sunglasses, at least inside, tend to get asked about them. And if you can just tell a couple people who ask that you're doing it because you get migraines and want to raise awareness, or because someone you care about gets migraines and you want to raise awareness for them, then that can just be a little nugget that sticks in someone's mind when they ask you that question, then move on with their day. They might not understand migraine any better. They still might think it is, quote unquote, just a headache, but at the very least, they will know that people are out there trying to raise awareness for a condition that is very, very difficult to treat. And so I just wanted to highlight that again. It is June 21st, where you can go ahead and, take a picture of you wearing glasses, upload it to social media with the hashtag Shades for Migraine tag, and be part of a growing movement, a growing way to, organize with one another and feel solidarity with one another, not just in our pain, but in our willingness to try and raise awareness in any way that we can. So very cool stuff from them. And again, that website was shadesformigraine.org. So with that being said, let us get to a migraine tip of the week. This week's migraine tip of the week has to do with getting information from your migraine journaling to your doctor in an efficient way. Longtime listeners of the podcast and longtime viewers of the Migraine Guy YouTube channel know that I'm a huge advocate for tracking information about your migraines, not just migraine frequency and intensity, not just all of the corresponding symptoms that go with your migraine and when they occur, but also issues relating to your diet and issues relating to your medication. All of those things become very, very important when you are talking with your doctor. The downside to tracking is that for any individual patient who's going to keep track of that amount of information over the course of even a month is going to bring in a ton of information, an overwhelming and really an unreadable amount of information for a doctor in a 10 to 15 minute meeting. And so what we need to do is we also need to have a kind of translation, a summarized version of all of that migraine information for the doctors to have the moment we walk in and the clock starts ticking on how long they can stay with us. So if you, for example, use the tracking charts that I created that you can get for free over at theheadachreview.com under the ebook section, you notice that there's all of the relevant information about your migraines, when they hit, what other symptoms happen, if you took medication, how that helped or didn't help, etc., as well as dietary and what's the other word? Sleep histories. All of those things are very important, but when it comes to presenting that information to your doctor, can be overwhelming. If you're using a tracking app like what's the one, Migraine Buddy, or any of the other ones that are currently out there, some of them do have very, very helpful summarization features. But if you're like me, when your migraine is hitting, or you just got over a really bad migraine, sometimes putting in the amount of detail into an app on your phone isn't really the kind of activity you want to engage in. Whereas writing something down, I can typically do, especially in like a dark room, I can still write. As long as there's just enough light that I can see the paper clearly. And so that's the reason that I like the tracking charts that you handwrite as opposed to the apps. But if you're using the apps, the summarized components of the apps are probably sufficient for this purpose. But if you're like me and you like writing down information of this sort, then having a secondary tracking system that kind of captures the highlights, captures, big picture issues that your doctor's going to care about. How many migraine episodes did you have this month? How many triptans or how many abortives did you take this month? Did you take your prophylactic every single day? Did you see a decrease in your migraine frequency this month versus last month if you're comparing whether or not a prophylactic is helping? Those kind of big picture items are what a doctor is going to care about. They're not going to necessarily have enough time to really care about what day of the week you had your migraines, how long they lasted, etc., etc. They're going to want summarized information. And so if you like the handwritten tracking charts that I provided, I'm going to be making another tracking chart to go along with those that you can, extract the summarized, that you can extract the information from in order to make a summarized chart to hand to your doctor every time you walk in. So if you're using a tracking app, you already probably do this, but if you are not, then it was kind of like a light bulb went off for me earlier this week when I was thinking about it. So I want to provide that for anybody who is similar to me and likes handwriting tracking information. So that, I think, is the end of the tips. So let's move on to the end of the show. All right, everyone, that is going to wrap up this week's show. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, if you did, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button and leave a positive review on whatever podcast platform you are listening on. Additionally, if you need a support group, if you're feeling lonely or isolated, you feel like nobody understands you or nobody empathizes with you, or you're just looking for some general company with your migraines, you can head over to Facebook and search the Migraine Guy Support Group. We ask a couple questions before you're allowed in, but that's to help weed out some of the bots and trolls out there that would try to take advantage of you. For example, this morning I actually had to ban someone from the group who was a brand new member who was simply trying to sell illegal drugs in the group. Illegal because he was not a doctor prescribing them for us, as well as some other drugs that are technically categorized as illegal. So not only did I have to ban him from the group and delete his post, I also had to report him to relevant authorities. So that was the morning for me, but that's the kind of protection that we offer our members in the group. So if you need that, head over to Facebook and search the Migraine Guy Support Group, because the worst thing isn't your migraines, it's feeling that you're alone, which is why we do all the stuff that we do here, is to help you know that you are not alone. If you want to help keep everything that the Migraine Guy does free, then you can become a patron over at the website patreon.com. That's Patreon.com. Patreon lets people contribute funds to other people whose work they value. Becoming a patron does things for me, such as allowing me to buy new products so that I can do product review videos so that you know whether or not a given migraine product actually works before you buy it. It also helps me do things like upgrade the microphones and cameras for both the YouTube channel and this podcast. And more importantly, it helps me be accountable to you, my migraine community. You can pledge as low as $1 a month if you want to, and every single dollar does help. Just head over to patreon.com/themigraineguy to become a patron today.